All right, welcome back everybody. On this video, I want to talk about some research I've been doing over my last week or so about behavior. As a matter of fact, I'm going to title this video, A Few Things I've Learned About Behavior. And I'm going to actually just read a couple of lines for you, and I want you to tell me what you think about it. It says, behavior is all the things we do internally as well as what we do with our bodies that can be seen, heard, felt, smelled, and tasted. External behavior happens only in the moment and is the natural outcome of the internal behaviors. Focus on that. External behaviors, which means not coming from you, happens only in the moment and is the natural outcome of the internal behaviors. Very interesting, right? Ching, put a check there. You just learned something. Okay, external behavior can only occur in the present. Internal behavior can occur in all time frames, past, present, and future. And because of this, all we have ever been and can imagine being is available to us. Each time we step into the world of another, we have the opportunity to expand both their world and our world. And it says, one cannot communicate. Functions of nonverbal communication helps clarify and expand verbal communications. In other words, if you can't communicate verbally, nonverbal communications are just as effective as speaking to those who understand that, right? And it also helps to confuse verbal communication that can mean a number of other things, right? But the point I want to make about the behavior basically is that you have an external behavior and you have an internal behavior. You give me your take on which one of those you control. Right. The internal, that's your only point of power, is how you respond to something or how you feel about something, right? You can't control if someone just comes up and starts yelling at you. That's beyond your control. Your control comes in how you respond to that, right? And that's where your power is. And that's where your power is moving forward in your life. Your control is what you do, not what others do around you. It's what you do. And what you do over time tells a story about you. It indicates your habits, your mannerisms, your ways of doing things, right? So from a behavior perspective, that is also chosen by you. You also choose what you want to do and how you want to do it. And over time, that's one of my favorite phrases I've begun to acquire, is you see the fruits of your work, of the commitment, the dedication, the stick-to-itiveness that you become a part of. You become a magnet to finishing what you start, or you won't start it. And that's how people who understand time work. They understand how valuable time is. So they're not going to commit to a window of time if it's not either benefiting them, or they can't fit it in, or it's not, or it's taken away from something they need to do, right? You have to pattern yourself in that way as well, because you can't just spend a lot of time doing nothing. And you know, life is short. You need to be productive doing something, because at some point, your ability to become productive ceases. Right, as you get older in life, as life, as you start to get in the 50s, 60s, and 70s of life, what you used to do in the 20s and 30s are non-existent. They do not play a part in your life anymore. But you see it all the time. Sometimes you do. People are 60 or 70 years old doing things that they did when they were 30 and 20 years old. Did they learn? I don't know. I know it's all individual, right? But at some point you have to assume responsibility for who you are and how you became who you are, right? Now I'm going to give you a couple of other little tidbits you might want to take away as well in line with behavior. I found them to be kind of fascinating because certain things about self always pull me in that direction. I understand mind, body, and soul that our purpose here on life is to understand self. Understand why I, Larry James, respond the way I respond, why I act the way I act. How can I become better at what I do? What are my weaknesses? What are my strengths? What am I confident about? What am I insecure about? And as I learn what those are for me, then I can work on those, right? Until I actually understand what those are for myself and identify those as issues or that they exist for me, then it can't be solved. The root of the problem has not been identified or is not being addressed. It's like people who have addictions. If you have an addiction to something, there's a reason that you have an addiction. That root, whatever that root is for you, is the reason. But if you hadn't identified what that is, in other words, if you can't put your finger on it and say it's because I was an alcoholic, or I was molested, or I had a bad accident and I looked terrible, or whatever the case may be, then it's going to be difficult till you actually break that habit, unless some power of the universe takes over, right? And let me give you a brief example about that. I've got a friend I just visited not too long ago, and he was a severe alcoholic in my mind. To me, he was a severe alcoholic. He would drink alcohol too much, and that's not good, in my opinion. But what he would do is, I would share this with him that you're not addressing the root of why you do that, and he kept doing it, so he never did address the root. But something happened with his health, and he actually had a mild stroke, and he had water on his lungs or something like that. Whatever it was, caused him to stop drinking that day, and hasn't drank again, and says he will not drink again. What was that? He had a severe habit, and he had the power to stop anytime he wanted to. He stopped that moment, not another drink. So how can you have a habit so severe, your addiction so severe, and all of a sudden something happens to you and you never drink again? What causes that? I know. It's called life. You want to live. If your will to live is stronger than your will to drink or whatever substance you're using, and you identify that for real, like, look, this is what he says the doctor told him: if you keep drinking, you're gonna die. Enough said, right? If that's the response, or that's the answer that you get from the external, you've already been telling yourself that internally, because you're doing that. You're self-medicating, right? So you already know that what you're doing is not helping you. It's not helping the situation. But you may be in denial. You don't know. These are behaviors, right? And until you actually identify that you have that, whatever that is that you have, then you won't solve it. Please know that. You cannot solve a problem that you won't identify as being a problem. Because in your mind, you don't look at it that way. You look at it like, well, that's somebody else to do that. I don't do that. Right? But sometimes we do. Okay, now, it says, there are basic sensory based elements we mirror to establish rapport with another person. Okay? Now that's the rapport that you get from your behavior kind of pulls you to other people, and that's a different mindset. But in line with behavior, when you understand self, you are starting to win. just know that once you identify with who you are and start to work on who you are, you begin to win, because you start to accept responsibility for what goes on in your life and not blame other things for where you are, for what you've gone through, for the person across the street, or your car going on flat. When you kind of man up and take responsibility for some of the things that happen, then that behavior changes. You start to attract people who are also responsible individuals, right? And that's the way it works. All right. Hope you enjoyed that video. Like this video, subscribe to this video, share this video, and I'll see you on the next video. My name is Larry James. My company is SpeakerLarry.com.